Mitch Morse is back to full health. Eric Washington got a promotion. And who are the teams that are better than the Buffalo Bills? We're going to talk about that today on the Wandering Buffalo podcast.
You are now listening to the Wandering Buffalo podcast with your hosts, Justin Goddard and Andrew Chang.
Bills Mafia, welcome into another episode of the Wandering Buffalo podcast, a show on the Buffalo Fanbase Podcast Network. My name is Justin. I'm going to be getting you started tonight. Andrew has already recorded this episode, and as it happens in this slow time of the year, we get some breaking news as soon as we finish recording. Nothing happens for a full week, and the breaking news comes out as soon as the episode gets recorded. So I just want to take this opportunity to kind of touch on my thoughts of the breaking news, which would be Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane getting contract extensions. Also, just wanted to take a moment to kind of explain what's been going on in my life. If you guys listen to the show every week, I've been missing for probably about a little over a month here, and so about a month ago, my wife was diagnosed with breast cancer, and kind of was a real surprise for us, and just something that we've been dealing with day by day, and just had to keep my focus there, and the podcast kind of had to go on the back burner for a little bit. So as of right now, things are going pretty well. We've progressed nicely. Still a very long road ahead, so apologies in advance for any episodes that we'll be missing going forward as we deal with this really, really difficult time in our lives. And just appreciate you guys keeping us in your thoughts as we battle this journey. That being said, I want to thank special thanks to my co-host Andrew and our producer Jake for keeping the wheels rolling on this thing while I've been away. And also a shout out to Tia Estelle from Not Your Average Podcast in the 716. And shout out to Vince Taylor, Bite Size Buffalo, also on this Buffalo Fanbase Podcast Network. They were able to fill in on some spot duty and help us get through this time. So you guys have been great to us in the past. We love you, and thank you for your help and support as we're navigating these uncharted waters. So I just wanted to talk briefly about the extension of Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane, and this is something that's kind of been highly debated in Bills Mafia, especially if you're on Twitter. And there's just a ton of voices out there, calling for McDermott to be on the hot seat. And I think for me, this is especially in Twitter, where the minority has the loudest voices. I don't think it's the overwhelming sentiment of Bills Mafia that McDermott should be fired. But at least for the time being, that kind of puts this to rest, right? Being a McDermott in lockstep, under contract through 2027. And personally, I absolutely love these extensions. Are there things that both of them can work on? Sure. Are there draft picks that haven't worked out from Beane? Yeah. Have there been some game management issues from Sean McDermott along the way? Yes. All that being said, these two together have helped put together a team and organization that's had success that we haven't seen in 20 years. Going back to, Jim Kelly, Thurman Thomas, Bruce Smith, Marv Levy, these people in the Bills history past that are folklore to us now. Just 20 years of absolute mediocrity of Chan Gailey's, Tom Donahoe's, Rex Ryan, Doug Marrone. You just start going down the list of all these mediocre to terrible coaches, GMs, Doug Whaley. Yeah, would I have liked to seen the Bills get to a Super Bowl by now? Yeah, absolutely. Do I think we have the team put together to make it there? Yes. I also think it's fair that they haven't gotten there yet. Getting to the Super Bowl, winning the Super Bowl, it's a very difficult thing. And there's 31 teams every year that are upset that they didn't get it done. And there's a handful of teams that are contenders and feel like they're good enough to get it done and come up short. And that's just the way it goes. Every year we see in the playoffs, it's, a weird bounce of the football. It's costly penalty. It's any number of things. There's a little bit of luck that goes into this. Last year, I think the Bills had a really, really great shot at making it. And you look at all the balls that bounce sideways on them, both on and off the field. You're talking about, some serious injuries to key players on this team. You had Micah Hyde miss almost the entire season. Von Miller, you brought in to be kind of that playoff closer. He gets hurt week 11. You had Jordan Poyer battling injuries all season. Josh Allen had an injury. You just go down the list, and there was so much that we dealt with last year. Then you add into that all the off-field stuff, and I'm not making excuses for the team. I'm just kind of painting the picture of all these different, people say you need a little luck. You need the ball to bounce your way. Well, last year for the Bills, they still managed 13 wins, got a playoff win, and seems like at every drop of the hat, the ball was bouncing the wrong way for them. You had the Damar Hamlin injury on the field and everything that went with that, all the emotions. Glad to see him back out there looking healthy. You had the snowstorm in Buffalo where, it becomes bigger than football. People in the Buffalo community are literally dying in a snowstorm, and these guys are headed off to play a football game in Detroit. There's a mental toll that comes with that. All that to say that there's a large section of the Bills fan base that has been weathering the storm, who made it through this 17-year playoff drought that we had. And we have a coach and GM that have gotten us to the playoffs in almost every year they've been here. We missed the playoffs one year, and that's we backed into the playoffs year one when everybody thought we were tanking. Missed the playoffs, and we've been back every year since. We've had that level of success. And for me, yes, I want to see us get over the hump for sure. I think a big part of winning the Super Bowl is collecting the talent and building a team that's good enough to be able to get it done and be able to continue maintaining that team so you're at least in the conversation every year, and then hope that a couple of those bounces go your way. You're going to need a little bit of luck. You're going to need that health to stay on your side. But as long as you have a team that is assembled, that's good enough to get it done, that, is winning divisions, getting you to the playoffs, then you have a chance. And, if we see this start going sideways, yeah, feel free to make a change. But we look at how many coaches in the league had sustained success in the league and just weren't able to get a Super Bowl victory in. And the easiest example of this is Andy Reid. He had something like 14 years with the Eagles, was a great coach there. He was getting them to the playoffs and it just didn't get to lift the trophy. Heads off to Kansas City, and he's having extreme success there. And that's a guy that was kind of chased out of town because it was he's good enough to get us there, but he's not good enough to get the job done. Well, it's good enough to get the job done now. So I think there is a certain level of patience that comes with this, and a little bit of perspective of where the team is now versus where we were not so long ago. And I think with some patience and persistence and hopefully some good bounces of the ball, this team's going to be lifting the trophy in no time. And I think Bean and McDermott are the guys to get us there. Now, all that to say, the other thing I like about this extension is it keeps the continuity in place and it keeps your guys locked up. There's also no dead cap. There's no salary cap for coaches. If things start going off the rail this season, which I don't at all expect them to, if things start going sideways, you can remove the coach and the GM. It means the Pagulas will have to eat some money. We see it all the time. And I was talking about this with somebody, and I was looking at the John Gruden situation, and he got this like ridiculous contract from the Raiders. It was like 10 years, 100 million. And I think he made it through about 4 of them, and probably should have been fired after like 2. But you're able to kind of eat that money and make a pivot. We saw a situation with Doug Marrone where he didn't even get fired. He just had something in his clause where he could leave if he wanted to, and we still had to pay him, which is just absolutely terrible. But it happens all the time in the NFL that coaches that are under contract get fired, and you can make a pivot at that point. So to me, McDermott is the right leader for this team right now. I have some question marks in regards to the coaching staff around him. That's something we can discuss another time, but I think McDermott has been a great leader for this team. Bean has been a great general manager. It seems like every year we're like, this is the year that like we won't be able to assemble this talent again. You saw it like last year with Von Miller. Then we go into this offseason, there's no money to spend, and brings in, Leonard Floyd, brings in Taylor Rapp, just keeps making moves happen, and able to bring back Jordan Poyer. We didn't think that was going to happen. Just all kinds of moves that he keeps making happen, and we get these big names, Poona Ford, the list goes on and on. And from my perspective, maybe I'm a little bit of a homer, but I think this roster is better set up this year than last year. And I was just kind of mentioning the big names there. You also look at the retooling of the wide receiver core with Deontay Hardy, Trent Sherfield, just all these guys that we're bringing in to try to make the roster better. So there keeps being like this wall that's put up, like this has to be the year that we do it. We won't get a better team than this year. And Bean keeps improving on this team. So I'm very happy with the extension of both these coaches. Both of these people in the organization, and Bean and McDermott. I think they work very well together. I think they have kind of the same vision going on. And I think that continuity within the coaching staff, within the organization, is one of the most beneficial things for a football team. So that's going to wrap it up for me today. I will be joining you again next week, hopefully alongside Andrew. I want to let you go today. Thank you again for all your support while I've been away, and all your support in the future. And I'll turn it over to Andrew. Go Bills.
Welcome in, everybody, and thank you for joining me on another episode of the Wandering Buffalo Podcast, a show here on the Buffalo Fan Base Network. I'm your host, Two Changs. You can find me and this podcast by looking up the Wandering Buffalo Podcast on all audio platforms and, of course, on YouTube. I just want to say thank you for clicking the play button wherever you are, and we got some things to talk about, and we're just going to jump right in. Mitch Morse. He apparently had off-season surgery to his ankle and elbow, and they were a complete success. So congratulations, Mitch Morse. I'm really happy to hear that you're fully healthy, and it kind of explains why he didn't really participate too much. I don't even know if he did participate. Maybe one of you can fill me in there, but to my knowledge, I thought he was very limited and no contact stuff, and now it kind of makes a lot of sense. Turns out he was battling a UCL injury for a good majority of the season, so the same injury that Josh Allen had. Now, Mitch Morse doesn't throw any footballs, but he does the snapping. So it's good to hear that ligament is all healed up and stabilized and that he's good. Again, great to see him right. And it's also great to see that he repaired his ankle after giving it some time. So apparently what happened with that is that his doctors were like, you could probably get away with not doing a whole bunch there, and it might get better, but it wasn't getting better. And then he was like, you know what? I'm just going to get the damn surgery. So good on Mitch Morse. He knows his body, and we need him, right? We really desperately need him to be good. He is the glue to this offensive line. And quite frankly, could you imagine this offensive line last year if we didn't have Mitch Morse? God, it was for lack of better words, the offensive line last year was kind of lackluster, right? Deion Dawkins had a down year, if we're being honest. Oh my God, the left guard, Roger Saffold, was just awful. Like, oh my God, I really thought he was going to be so much better, and he was just not it. Mitch Morse was battling through injury. Right guard, we got Ryan Bates, who I expected to have a better season, and he kind of was meh, I guess. And Spencer Brown was pretty inconsistent, and we can go through the whole situation of why he didn't have a regular offseason, but he just didn't have enough time on task. And ultimately, it just came to the fact that the Buffalo Bills' protection around Josh Allen was pretty bad, and eventually it caught up to him. Josh Allen had to do everything. He was on the run, didn't have any time. So this is great news to know that one of the most reliable pieces, and for obviously the leader on that front, is healthy. He's good to go, and I just wish him the best in terms of his health. And I think he's going to be able to help stabilize this offensive line, which I have really high hopes for. Let's move on to the next news item here, and that's Eric Washington got a promotion to, I guess, assistant head coach or co-head coach, something like that. And let me just get some facts out of the way. Well, no, let me give you my opinion on that. I don't think he has done anything to earn that position. Might be a hot take. But, I mean, realistically, he came in, he got hired on January 10th, 2020, and I'm going to go through ESPN pass, rush, run weight, run, stop, win rate, and we can kind of see what happened here since he came into the picture. But I'm going to be honest, it's just, at a glance, I don't think that what's happened on the defensive line from like a 30,000 foot view is satisfactory to me as a fan. I look at what the Bills have tossed towards this defensive line. First, second round draft picks, bringing in some free agents and like marquee free agents, just throwing every possible thing you can do to this defensive line. And from my point of view, before looking into all these stats, I would say like when you could see it drop off a cliff as soon as Von Miller went out, and it did, which in my opinion is a little unacceptable. You have like a couple firsts, a couple seconds, like you have really good talent on the interior defensive line. Like why could we not do anything about, like, why couldn't these pieces do anything for us? But let's get into the numbers here before passing judgment. So, like I said, ESPN puts out a pass rush win rate, and that can be defined as how often a defender can win his block within 2.5 seconds. And then run stop win rate can be defined as beating his blocker so he's in a better position to stop the runner, disrupting the pocket or running lane by pushing his blocker backwards, containing the rusher such that he must adjust his running lane or recording a tackle within 3 yards of the line of scrimmage. So obviously the pass rush win rate can be defined as like, hey, did you beat your guy in 2.5 seconds? Whereas run stop win rate can be defined as like, basically, did you have a hand in making the opposing team deviate a little bit from their goal somehow? But let's look at 2020. The pass rush win rate, we had the team itself was at number 2 at 52%. That's when Eric Washington first came in. 52, number 2 ranking out of all teams. That's pretty good. I was happy about it. Here's the funny part. Jerry Hughes was number 2 for players at edge at 29%. And then Quentin Jefferson at number 9 for defensive tackle at 13%. Neither of those players are on the Bills now. But it's great to see, like, hey, Jerry Hughes, he was your daddy. Like, hey, man, I really liked what he did here in Buffalo. And that was the year, I believe, that the Bills really bursted onto the scene. And we'll kind of talk about how that season ended. But the run stop win rate was at number 23, ranked number 23 out of obviously 32 teams at 29%. So not really great. And furthermore, there were no players listed on the top charts for that. No surprise, when you're ranked number 23, you probably didn't have a solid run defense. And, well, we didn't. That's like a common theme that has happened in the past. So the McDermott years of defense with Leslie Frazier's like, why can't we stop the run? Why can't we stop the run? Well, we'll get into that, and you'll kind of see why that wasn't necessarily true all the time. But in 2020, obviously that was the year that the Bills lost in the AFC Championship game. And in that championship game, they finished with 1 sack against Patrick Mahomes. 1 sack. For being number 2 at pass rush win rate, you'd expect a little more production there. But let's move on to 2021. Maybe things changed. The team's pass rush win rate was rated at number 6. So you went from number 2 in 2020 to number 6 in 2021, and you're winning at 46%. Ed Oliver was the lone person at that top 10 list for defensive tackles. He was ranked number 7, and he had a run rate of 13%. Now, run stop win rate. This is where the Bills kind of were like, all right, you know what? We were what were they the year before? 23. They jumped from 23 to 16 in run stop win rate at 21%. Gregory Rousseau, number 5 at edge, 30% of the time, 1. Harrison Phillips, hello, I miss you. I love Horrible Harry. At number 8 for defensive tackles at 41%. And again, Ed Oliver, number 9. So he cracked the list for pass rush win rate and run stop win rate for 2021. He was rated number 9 for defensive tackles at 41% when it came to defending the rush. Again, we lost that year to the Chiefs once again in the divisional round with the whole 13 seconds debacle, but we finished that game with 2 sacks. 2 sacks. Now, I'm not saying sacks are the reason or a good indicator for why you would be good or good as a defensive line coach, but the NFL pays for sacks. That year, I think we were really focused on getting pressure, compression, making throwing lanes really hard, but obviously that didn't really work out in that game because Patrick Mahomes put up 42 on us, if I'm not mistaken, and it just wasn't a really viable plan. When the stage was really, when the lights were really bright. So what did the Bills do? They go into last year, 2022, and they go like, all right, it's time to show up big. We got rid of Jerry Hughes. Well, we didn't get rid of him, but we let him go. And Then we bring in Von Miller. Pass stop win rate. We got number 11 in the league. So again, in 2020, when he first came in, Eric Washington first came in, we were at number 2, then number 6 in 2021, and now we're at number 11 at 43%. And Von Miller was number 6 for edge defenders at 23% success rate. So we're kind of trending in as a team going in the wrong direction. And that's just the stats. Now the run stop win rate, interestingly enough, we started at number 23 in 2020, then number 16 in 2021, and in this most recent season, we went to number 7 in 2022. So our pass rush win rate has been going down since Eric Washington came in, but our run stop win rate has gone up. Again, we were number 7 at 32% success rate for run stop win rate in 2022. Ed Oliver and Daquan Jones, number 5 and number 6 respectively for defensive tackles, 42% success rate for both of those players. Again, we lost in the divisional round against the Bengals, finished up with 1 sack. So, I look at all of that, and this is my takeaways. I don't think that he necessarily deserved this position. Since coming in, this is a passing league, yes? Right? Since coming in, Eric Washington has been at the helm at defensive line coach, and we've just gotten worse from a pass rush win rate, but we've gotten better at run stop win rate. And there's more to this picture than just those two metrics, of course, but I'm trying to get the most out of these. I'm trying to focus really hard on this defensive line, and it just really, really makes it hard for me to wrap my mind around this promotion. And last year, when we get Von Miller, you're thinking this is the best defensive line that we could ever get. We got a pass rush specialist in. And mind you, we lost him due to his injury, which might have been the reason why the Bills ended up at number 11 and not higher, which, could have been the reason why the trend continued downwards. But still, you would expect with those other players, like Greg Rousseau, first-round pick, A.J. Epinesa, second-round pick, Boogie Basham, second-round pick, and the other defensive tackles, you would expect that this team would pick it up. But it just wasn't there. And another interesting thing I'll talk about right before we go into break is that he was given the assistant head coach position. So what does this mean about Leslie Frazier? He said he was taking a year off. I'm not so sure. If he's taking a year off and you want him back, wouldn't you keep that spot vacant for him? Doesn't seem like he's really taking a year off. If you ask me, I think he might have been asked to leave kindly. And if you were planning on bringing him back, you wouldn't replace his old position with a new guy. So, some things to keep in mind about. But we're going to take a quick break. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Hey, this is Dick DeGroat, Bill's dad. Now back to the show.
Welcome back, everyone, and thank you for joining me on this episode of the Wandering Buffalo podcast. We're going to pick up the rest of this episode by talking about who are the teams that are ahead of the Buffalo Bills right now. And for this exercise, we're talking about the AFC only, right? You can't get to the Super Bowl unless you beat out the AFC. Now, your wins against the NFC are important, of course, but the road to the Super Bowl for the Bills has to go through the AFC Championship. And who are the teams that are better than the Buffalo Bills? And you might be asking yourself, why are we talking about this? There was a social media post out there, and I can't recall, and I've been trying so hard to find this. So if you know who I'm talking about, he said there are 5 teams ahead of the Buffalo Bills. And I'm here to tell you that nobody is ahead of the Buffalo Bills right now. I'm not trying to be cocky, but like realistically, is there a team that's significantly better? I'm really like asking that as a question. There's so much that goes into winning a football game other than who you have on your team. The game plan, the weather, home team, literally the wind, the sun. We saw that in week 3 last year. Like, there's just so much that goes into how a team can have success against another team. And the fact that you can just look at someone's roster and go like, yep, that team is definitely better than this team. I'm just not about that. There's just so much that goes into it that it doesn't make sense to me. A la Patriots, when they went to Super Bowl 42, I'm not mistaken, they had that unbeaten year, but then they lost to the wild card Giants. And then they went to the Super Bowl again. Obviously, they weren't unbeaten, but they lost to the Giants again. You're going to tell me that the Patriots didn't have the better team? I really think that the Giants really put a lot of effort, and that was the reason why they beat the Patriots. They did their homework. They got outcoached. The greatest coach of all time got outcoached. And he got beat by Eli Manning. I am so happy that happened. Every time I think about Tom Brady and Bill Belichick, I just think about how they lost in that Super Bowl, and it makes me so happy. But you might be saying, well, Andrew, like, hey, impact players are important. Well, let me tell you this. Let me tell you why the Bills right now might have arguably the best team assembled in general in team history. And I don't think that's even like remotely close. And remember, like, you might be going like, well, the 90s Bills, like, they went to 4 Super Bowls. Well, Andrew, blah, blah, blah. Well, I'm going to be honest, I didn't even know what I was watching. That might tell you a little bit about my age, but this team, in this era of football, there's definitely a different type of game. Football right now is played significantly different than how the Bills were playing when they went to those 4 Super Bowls, I think. With like the rules, how we've been more shifting towards like a passing league. There's just a lot that goes on. But let me give you some names here that should make you feel a lot better about why should give you an idea of why I don't think there's a better team out there. They say any given Sunday, right? And I don't like saying that because it just feels like a cop-out. But it's the truth. Any given Sunday. And any given Sunday, these players can go out there and whoop the other team's ass. Von Miller, Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, Mitch Morse, Deion Dawkins, Tre'Davious White, James Cook, Kyer Elam, Gabriel Davis, Ed Oliver, Jordan Poyer, Micah Hyde, Connor McGovern, Gregory Rousseau, Taylor Rapp, Sam Barton, Tyler Bass, Spencer Brown, not even to mention the rookies. Like, there are so many playmakers on this team, and this roster is so deep. There's competition littered everywhere. And again, this all stems from the fact that there was a social media post out there that said there were 5 teams ahead of the Buffalo Bills. Who I remember on that list that I read the Chiefs, Bengals, Ravens, and like 2 other teams. Like, okay. First of all, the Bills have beaten the Chiefs. They've proven that they've closed that gap. Now they got to go out and beat the Bengals, but I don't think that the Bengals are definitively 100% better than the Bills. You kidding me? Like, you heard the team talk and all the players talk like we just ran out of gas. There was so much that was going on last year, and it all basically came to a head, and then it just fizzed out in that divisional round where we lost. And then the Ravens? You're going to tell me that the Ravens are definitively better than the Buffalo Bills? I know they got OBJ and Lamar Jackson, but like, come on. The Ravens? Now again, any given Sunday, any team can get got. But the Ravens? And that's no disrespect. I personally think that the cream of the crop of AFC, there's a bunch of teams. And the Bills are one of those teams. I don't think that the Bills are definitively, quote unquote, better or worse. Just like I don't think the Ravens are worse or better than the Bengals. I really think it just comes down to the matchup, the game plan, the weather. Everything that goes into like how a team wins is more, there's more to it than just simply looking at who are my players versus who are your players. There's just way more to football than that. I challenge you to think about that. Think about like the Rex Ryan year when, oh my God, when we had, I think it was the first year, and he said, we're going to the playoffs, get ready. Think about that team and who was on defense. We had the cold front. He turned that team and that top 3 defense to shit. And you want to know why? Because he was a bad coach and couldn't game plan. That's really it. Like the Bills definitely, if you really look back at that team, you would go like, how did the Bills not make the playoffs with this team? It's not the players. It's not just the players. There's so much that go into this. And I took exception to that. And I feel like I was going more of a rant here, and this might be more of like, hey, you know, Andrew, you were talking kind of bad about, you know, Eric Washington and like other AFC contenders. Well, that's not the point. I'm just trying to be realistic. There's just, this team is so good. And who knows what's going to happen this year. Von Miller says he's going to be back week 6 at the absolute latest. Brandon Beane has even said he could probably play week 1 if he wanted to. What are we going to do then? That just means that the team is already ready to go out there and win some games. And that excites me. It really does. And I hope that excites you. But that's going to pretty much wrap it up for today's episode. I do want to thank you for listening. If you could like, comment, subscribe, and review our podcast, it'd be greatly appreciated. Again, we are a part of the Buffalo Fan Base Network. We have other great content creators on this network. We also have a website, so please check that out. Jacob, our executive producer, has done amazing work. So if you could do that, that'd be fantastic. But wherever you are, I hope that you enjoy the rest of your day and that you always remember that any given Sunday. No, I'm just kidding. No, but on a serious note, we'll leave it there. But I just do want to say, go Bills. And remember, we have an amazing team, no matter what. Go Bills.